I thought it was at 8%. I get it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm at 0.2%.
Shit, I'm stunned. Fucking it.
Unfortunate.
Well,
Plus, you can do this, Kyle.
A few moments later.
Easy. Wasn't even close.
yo, what's going on, guys? So this is a 25 Dawn of the Infinite Rise on Tyrannical, Entangling, Bursting Week. So to start things off, you want to grab these first two Vanguards and pull it together with this caster at the other two Vanguards, and then this first mini-boss that does the shield and the other caster. Now, things you want to look out for is that these Vanguards do a cleave that's a bleed, so you're going to want to watch your bleeds on them. And then obviously the two casters just do like a cast that's a regular cast, and then they have a special one that is a volley that you absolutely want to make sure that you stop with either just like a kick or any type of stop. So we generally try to nuke the casters down first and then focus in on the mini-boss here that does the shield and the AoE ground effects while trying to make sure that I'm pointing the Vanguards away from the rest of my melee group. As you can see, they're hard cast. It's a red cast when they're about to do their bleed cleave, and you can just kind of step away from them as they do that, and normally you can dodge most of them. If you don't dodge them, you can always, if you're a dwarf, you can dwarf off the bleed, or if you get hit with it, you can just use, any type of regular damage reduction or physical damage. So once these are close to dead, what we're going to do is we're going to move over to the other mini-boss that does the Radiance AoE effect and also shoots out the orbs. Now, a lot of people don't know, but these orbs actually can be used not only to damage you, but to damage the other ads. So you'll want to try to position your range to bait through the ads. So you're going to notice this circle is about to come through this ad. It's going to stun it on the way out and do damage, and then when it comes back, it's going to stun it again. So I try to just tank it right in the position over here. You can see my hunter is in the top right of my screen. As soon as the orb goes, she's going to move back over and bait it back into those ads, and we'll just kind of keep on taking care of these ads while nuking down this mini-boss. Once that caster's done, if the pat is far enough away, you can grab these other two pack of casters and pull them in to try to help deal with them with the orb. Ideally, they get dealt with the orb. Sometimes you can't get the orb onto them just because they're a different direction. But, anything that you can get with the orb is, obviously ideal because it's free damage. Again, these casters and Vanguards, they're the same on this entire platform, so the Vanguards still make sure you're pointing away, casters make sure you're kicking regular bolts, and using whatever you can to stop the volleys. If you have to let a regular bolt go through, that's fine. Just definitely make sure that you are kicking the volleys. Once she's dead, you can go over to the last mini-boss. Now, the mini-bosses here are what activate the boss. So you want to try to kill the mini-boss before you finish clearing the trash that you need to clear. So on here, again, we've got two more casters, and this mini-boss will pick someone and trap them in sand. You need to kick it. Generally, as the tank being more mobile as a Brewmaster, I'll just go ahead and kick that one. It does take one melee kick, but then just make sure that you have the stops to stop the volleys that the other two casters over here do. Once these two casters are dead, you can pull in the other two casters that are padding. It's actually one caster and a Vanguard. And again, here you want to really make sure that you're taking care of the mini-boss first, because again, that's what starts that 30-second RP timer for the boss. Now, you don't need the other pack that you can see in the bottom left of my screen now that's over there. We're going to leave that pack up, and we're just not even going to pull it at all. Now, unfortunately, my group here was doing a little bit too much damage to the ads and not to the mini-boss, so you can see the mini-boss is taking some time to die here. But again, that's okay. It just means that you can kill some time there, but it gives time for healers to drink and get situated. So we are just trying to nuke this down faster, and I'm still pointing the Vanguards away. Again, there is this other 3-pack that has 2 casters and a Vanguard in it. We are going to skip that, and it might actually be a 4-pack. Can't remember. Can't see it right now. But anyways, we're going to position for the boss, and we're going to always try to make sure that we're putting the sand effects, the frontal that goes on you or the frontal that goes on other enemies, towards this wall where we're going to be going. This is kind of a safe wall where you can get knocked back at. And also, when the knockback's on you, you can use things like Transcendence to position well. So, as soon as we pull, normally we actually lust on the trash, and then we don't have it up for the boss, but our hunter forgot to lust here, so we just lust on the trash. Or sorry, we lust on this boss. It ends up working out okay. She's not used to lusting. Normally we have a shaman in our group. But you can see I'm just going to keep pointing him over this way, and our other members are trying to point his stuff towards the other edges. The below there, you can normally just use a cell brew to defensive that, and then if you don't have that up, you can like alternate dampen harms and fort brews. But you'll notice I start to pull over here, and I'm going to place my Transcendence, because normally whatever ability is first is the ability that's going to be cast third. So after the soak here that you all want to soak, it's generally going to hit the tank. So it actually chose not to here. It chose my rest of my group. I'm just going to pull this guy over here, and what this does is this allows your 2 melee to be on other sides of the boss and attack and collect orbs, and then the ranged and you, so your healer, your ranged, and the tank, you can grab the orbs. You do want to be careful not to pull the other pack that we haven't pulled over there, but you just want to stop any of the orbs from hitting, and once that phase is done, then you just kind of pull it back and put them back over by all the Cheeto dust. Now, once again, do be careful. Ideally, you want to dispel either one of those people who gets the circles, and then the last person who has a circle ideally wants to come still in to soak that group soak there, and you just have everyone else on the other side. Unfortunately, we plugged this paladin, so he chose not to go in there, so it happens. But again, after this, you can see I'm going to start pulling them towards the boss, or towards this middle pillar again, and then we're going to try to put the bad effect into the old Cheeto dust, and you can see I can transcend back, pull him back in position, and again, my melee can just sit on the boss, while me and the healer and the range just collect orbs while the melee DPS. Now, our paladin over there is, again, a pug, and he's just kind of doing his own thing, grabbing balls. He could just be sitting on the boss and still collecting those orbs. Now, you will start to run out of room after a little bit, since this is Tyrannical Week. So, again, just try to put him near old Cheeto dust. Just be mindful of the edge, especially with your knockback, so that you're not knocking back off the edge. You can see here our hunter came in to soak that, gave us room, and we were able to not be in her circle at the same time. Now again, I'm just going to cell brew this and roll back over. I try to save my Transcendence so that I can get close to the pillar right at the end here. That way it's always like able to pull the boss in. You can see the Cheeto dust is starting to disappear from the first set. But we are going to pull this off, and we're not going to get another set here, and we can Touch of Death and finish off the boss. So that is the nice thing about lusting this boss on Tyrannical Week. If you lust this boss, you're going to lust this boss, the Horde Alliance fight, and then the final phase of the last boss. And if you lusted Trash, you're still going to lust Horde Alliance fight. But you might do a lust on the Double Dragons after this Gauntlet thing, and then go to Chromie, and then do Horde Alliance fight, and then have lust up for the last boss again. So you can get an extra lust in that way. So with this one, it's ideal just to be kicking this ad that's marked with star here. It does do those like circles. You do want to dodge the little 3 swirlies that go on the ground. If you stand in that, you will get like, it's like a stun or a root or something. I think it's a debuff that actually just stops you from moving. But ideally you just knock this down, and then you'll notice that as these are here, this is a good place as your cooldowns are up. We're about to do this gauntlet, right? So sometimes people aren't super great with the gauntlet, but you want to just make sure to pop whatever offensive cooldowns you have here. And you'll notice that anytime that he's doing his AoE, I do actually throw out Chi Wave, and every once in a while I might like off heal someone just to kind of help out. Not that big of a deal on Tyrannical weeks, but on Fortify weeks, the extra healing that you can do as a monk is helpful. Especially if you don't have like a good group for like group utility with defensives and stuff. Now, as it comes to this gauntlet, I'm going to show you my path here. I actually do this in one shot, which is great, but I tend to go over to the left first, kind of like weave back and forth, and then I go left here and then straight through the middle. If you go straight through the middle and no one else is in front of you, you can generally make it straight through. And then I like to go to the left here, and as long as you just keep moving, generally you should be good, and then you want to kind of stop, juke the cast, and then go right through the middle. Now, this doesn't always work. I looked really good right there on that video. But generally when you do this, you want to go and just start the RP for these dragons to come down, and then go back over and click. So you can see me, the paladin started the cast on the orb, and then me and the warrior are going to help finish it off for the priest and the hunter to be able to teleport through. Our hunter has beat us once. I think that's the one time she completed it. She's kind of special. Alright, with these two dragons, you do want to ideally kill the one on the right first. That's the one that does most of the AoE damage to the group. Again, more important on a fortified week than it is on a tyrannical week, but it's something you can do. You can see I am dodging the circles there. When it comes to the frontal here, you can alternate doing Cell Brew, and then you can use any of your defensives. That is a magic attack, so you can use Diffuse on it as well, but it really doesn't matter. Just Cell Brew, and then either Dampen Harm, Diffuse, Fort Brew, and then Cell Brew, and then just keep on alternating back and forth. And you can even Zen Med one if you want, since, you know, Zen Med, you're just kind of use as your last chance. But once that one's done, then you don't have to worry about too much. You just got the frontal going on you, and the rest of your DPS to just kind of focus and blow stuff up. Now again, if you did Lust on the beginning of the very first trash pack, you might have Lust back up for this pack, and then you can do that, and then you would go towards Chromie. But since we lusted on the first boss instead, we are going to kill this, and then we're going to go towards the Horde Alliance fight, which should leave Lust coming up right as we get there. So, this is the path that I go over here. Now, ideally, when you are doing this, you are going to end up pulling 3 to 4 mages, and a bunch of these small guys, and probably 1 or 2 of like the walking dog looking dudes that does Bloom in the frontal. The percent that you need before you go through, if you're going to use the route that I'm using here, is you need 70.4%. As long as you have 70.4, then you'll be good to move on. Generally, I think sometimes you end up with like 71%, just because like there's always one by the portal if you're going to the Horde Alliance fight first. That kind of just like pulls, so it's there. When that Bloom comes out, that debuff that goes on you, you can diffuse that off of yourself. Because it goes on you and one other person. You can also use the monk if you, like not monk, but the dwarf ability if you are a dwarf or a dark iron dwarf. Also, if you have an absorb shield up and it's your full health, and you have it up right before Bloom goes out, it just doesn't apply to you. And that works both in this dungeon and in fall. So whichever one you do, that's just kind of helpful to know. Now, with the Rift Mages here, you can see that as we're going through here, we're just trying to rotate kicks as best we can. We do have one person that's not in comms because we pugged them, because our shaman wasn't available for this key. But generally, you just want to like rotate kicks through here. There is one that's worse than the other. I don't know the difference in the names, I'm going to be honest. But you can look it up in the spellbook if you're concerned about it. But generally, just kick as much as you can, and if you see that he starts to spam cast, just kick as fast as possible, so that you can stop that spam casting, because there is one that causes them just like start spamming over and over. One thing to be careful of is to make sure after you go near the first portal that you do get close to it, so that Chromie starts channeling on it and can open it, because if you don't do that, then you'll have to walk all the way back. And then we're just making our way across here, again trying to pull as much as we can. If you can actually have your range to help you pull things here, you just want to be careful not to pull 2 of the time casters over there at the same time, especially if you don't have a whole lot of kicks, or if you're not in like a coordinated group in like Discord or Voice. So now that we're close, again we're going to go ahead and pull this other one. We're getting close to the Horde Alliance battle fight. I don't know what the boss is actually called, that's just kind of what I call it. I guess it's Time Lost Battlefield according to the text on the right. And we're just trying to pull these again. Now, this Rift Mage that's over there, you can let them past. Again, you just need 70.4%. But if you find that you're not at the 70.4 mark, then you can pull that Mage and use it for the extra percent. It kind of just depends on how many of the slightly larger. There are 2 little small mobs here. One's slightly larger. The small ones only give 0.3 when the larger ones give like 1%. So it does kind of depend on what you pull. Now we got lucky. Our Mage stopped to cast, so we were able to get through the portal without having to kill it. And you can see we're at like 71%, just over 71%. So we're good on percent. We are going to skip the mana worms on the other side. We're going to kill this group here. This group just requires that you have a couple kicks on all 3 of these mobs here. And then the one that is marked star, the one that looks like a mana ray, that one does do a frontal, so you just want to make sure that you point that away, and if it targets someone, you just move out of it. It's not actually targeted, like it targets someone, but it doesn't fixate them. So as soon as you see that it like starts to cast, you can just move out of it. And then obviously avoid the swirls. These casts also can all be stopped, except for the one that does like the channel forward thing, can all be stunned or paralyzed to stop those as well. Alright, after you're through here, a lot of people tend to struggle with this tank fight over here. The big key is to make sure that if you've got multiple melee, that they're on different sides of the tank. If you've got 3, then you want to have like you in front, 1 on the side, 1 on the other side, and 1 on the back. But ideally, whenever someone gets picked for the bombing run, you just have them slowly move in one direction and not like turn at all. You just go in a straight line, basically. So this paladin, again, not in our group, he's a pug. He chose to bubble it and just kind of chill there, which does help out. But you can alternatively just slowly walk in one direction and it doesn't do any damage. Now, when these sappers come out, if you can stun them, like get them all grouped and stun them really together, they'll die really quickly. You can see swirls here that pick me, and I'm just going to slowly walk in one direction. I'm just slowly walking. You don't even have to walk too fast. You can honestly backpedal that, and you'll never get hit, and it shouldn't hit anyone else as long as, you know, they're being smart about it and not getting your way. So this group of ads, you can see I have leg sweep up, so I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to try to grab these, get them together, and leg sweep as many as I can. That does help them so that if they die faster, they just start kind of like ticking down, and they're easier to AoE, because obviously then the melee can get in without getting like fixated. Alright, on the next fight then, depending on if you're fighting Horde or Alliance, it is different. If you're fighting Horde, you're going to get 2 horsemen that do like a rally, and then you're going to get a dude that does like sunder on the ground and like an earthquake effect, so just make sure that you are watching out for that. And if you're fighting the Alliance, you're also going to get 2 people on, you know, horses that will do a rally as well, but he will put Consecration, the main like mini boss guy, will put Consecration under random people, and that seems to do a little bit more damage. The earthquakes here tend to target just the tank, whereas with the Alliance one, it tends to target like anyone. So like these small sunder circles will target anyone, but the earthquakes themselves tend to only target the tank, it feels like. That's what it feels like anyways. Generally we just do a kick for each of the side guys, and then once both side guys are dead, the main mini boss guy will try to heal, and just make sure you have someone ready to kick that. Generally we just put a range on that because I only do it once. Now this fight in here is the hardest one. You do want to ensure that you have lust up for this fight specifically. Now when you're doing this, the Decapitate is going to put a 70% healing reduction on yourself, and it's going to do like a big hit. And we want to be making sure that we're baiting all of the frontal abilities off of the ledge. It's important that we don't bait them towards the ads, because any ads that he kills with either Blade Storm or this frontal here will empower him and make all of his attacks do more damage, so it's super important that you don't let him hit any ads. Now, as soon as he goes berserk, if you are fighting the Horde version, you want to be killing these axe throwers. They are the top priority, and then you just want to make sure that you're getting any like kicks on the warlocks. The axe throwers do a fuck ton of damage. You can see here it goes to Decapitate on me, and a lot of times you'll still have a bleed on you from the axe throwers, and so that kind of can like make things really bad. Now the second one that spawns, ideally, because it's going to happen at the same time as the frontals, you do want to CC that second set of ads, or use ring to like knock them in, but you definitely don't want to like go out and try to attack him until that's over, because of the fact that you can cause him to frontal a bunch of ads and get buffed. You can see here he doesn't have any buffs, so we're doing good so far. But that, unfortunately, is about to change. So the next set here, this one you are safe to go out and kill, because the frontals aren't going to happen for a while. But this Decapitate, again, it does start to hurt. So definitely try to have Soul Brew up for these whenever you can, and then alternate using Dampen Harm and Fort Brew. You can even use Zen Med if you absolutely need to, but like when that ad sets up, you're going to get the bleed on you. It's going to do a lot of damage. And you can see he just attacked a bunch of those and killed a bunch, and we've got like a 7 or 8 stack. So now Decapitate and Blade Storm's really going to hurt. So while he's Blade Storming, make sure that we're killing these things, and just as the tank, be ready, because you're about to get trucked, especially if he has a lot of buffs. So here I'm just popping anything I can. I'm even trying to use my Dwarf ability because it gives me 10% extra damage reduction. And I'm just like spamming myself with Expel Harms and really communicating with my healer to make sure that I, don't die here. Unfortunately, our Paladin goes down, and so does our Warrior. Our Hunter and I are the ones that have our B-Res bracers, so our Hunter goes over to Res, and unfortunately someone's going to die again. Kind of unfortunate. I tried to get the Res off on the Warrior here, but I don't know. Whatever reason, I was just not close enough to his body. But that's okay. Just kind of like keep on focusing on the boss. I do want to get that axe thrower dead. We were able to kill it real quick. Ideally, you can CC this ad or kick it. I kick it in and just kind of get some damage on it. We did have our warrior get up, and then he immediately died again, which is super unfortunate. But again, I'm trying not to panic. I'm readying myself for decapitate. See there, I got really low. I don't want to use cell brew until I absolutely need it for this decapitate. That's going to come. And again, we're focusing on ads. We were able to get up the paladin, which is super helpful. But again, the priority here is this axe thrower. You can't just let it stay up, or it's going to put bleeds on everyone, and you are going to wipe. And you can even see that the warlock puts out a dot too, which really hurts, especially with that decapitate going. Now this other one, we can see we're getting really bad, so our hunter is going to trap. I'm going to try to paralyze the warlock as soon as I have a chance. Alternatively, you can kick it. Doesn't really matter which one you do. But, you know, we're getting close to the end here, so it's really just kill the boss or die. So as these blades are, I'm just going to go out here, and I'm just going to paralyze this, and then as soon as we come back in, I'm going to get in safe and touch a death this. Honestly, if you can kill this boss without like having any issues, without wiping, the rest of the dungeon is easy compared to it. Like, this is the fight that is the make or break for this dungeon. I know that a lot of other dungeons, like Atal'Dazar, like it's all easy until the very last boss, and then you like find out really late if you're going to succeed in the key or not. But here, as long as you can beat this one, you're pretty good. Now, we are going to skip these mana rays. You don't need to do anything special except for... or I guess they're worms, not mana rays. Just wait for them to pad away and then just get through the middle. If you do happen to pull, just die and get res there. Please do not release. It takes forever to come all the way back through here. Releasing is really bad. Now, as we're going through here, we are going to kill the other pack that's on the other side of this bridge. This is the one that summons like the robotic things over by the Morty fight, which I believe I called Chromie a couple times. Because, you know, it's the evil version of Chromie. But one of the things that you can do, for instance, our warrior noticed that we had all our cooldowns available for the boss. So, if you've got a priest in here, you can simply just mind soothe the dragon and walk past him. So, we are going to need this percent, but because we have cooldowns rolling, we are going to mind soothe this dragon and just walk past him. And then once we're done with Morchi, we'll come back and we'll take care of that pack. So, it is important to wait. You can also lock gateway on the left side when the dragon paths to the right. Or you can put a lock gateway on the right side and take it right now. Where is that? Over here. But we're just waiting for our priest to get through, and then we're going to mind soothe, and then we'll get past. Now, you're seeing, because we didn't kill these dragons, I'm putting a marker down just so I know which way to get back to the way that we're going. So mind soothes down, and you can see even though he's like super close, you can just walk around him. As long as you don't get right on top of them, you're generally pretty good. Alright, things to watch out for on Chromie, Morchi rather, is as the tank, make sure that you're washing frontals. Try to help others when the ads come out and they get fixated on people, because it's really bad. The sand traps, when they trigger, they actually do AoE damage to everyone. So most people don't know this, but as you get to like higher and higher keys, or maybe if you're like with someone who's not as strong of a healer, you do want to be careful about getting all of the sand tracks active at the same time. Ideally, you want to use like a regular CC on one of the ads, or delay it somehow with like roots or slows so that you don't have to deal with stuff. So here you're looking for the Morchi that doesn't have anything on their head. You can see we're using our ping system to notify it. And then after it does that first set of like, you know, familiar faces, make sure that this is where you want to pop all your cooldowns. So if you do have cooldowns to pop, this is where you're going to pop them, because this is where you're going to get the most time. Now, when the sand circles come out, you're going to see I'm going to kind of like position a little bit so that the rest of my group can get ready to move and deal with their ads. When the sand puddles spawn is kind of like when the ads kind of choose. So you can see here, I'm just knocking my ad away, and I paralyzed the one over here. Unfortunately, I get too close and it ends up breaking. But again, it's okay. You just don't want to be popping all the sand traps at the same time, because again, every time a sand trap pops, it does AoE damage. Now, ideally, when this is happening, where you've got the multiple Morchis that you're trying to find the one that isn't the fake ones, ideally you want to position yourself on one side and everyone else on the other so that the frontals don't end up hitting people. Unfortunately, I'm stuck kiting my ad, and our pug paladin just keeps on running into me, so I'm just going to have to continuously kite, which isn't great for our melee, but it is what it is. So you can see I'm slowly going to hide in here. I'm trying to watch the fixate timer so that it doesn't actually fixate twice. But you can see as all these sand traps are popping, look how much damage everyone's taking, and then our hunter actually ran into her own sand trap exit. So it's kind of unfortunate. So be careful too, because sand traps, if you run into them on a 25 Tyrannical, they will one-shot you. Now, with these frontals, you can survive without anything. Ideally, you don't do that unless you've got like a big heal coming right afterwards. But you can just alternate using Cell Brew and then Fort Brew, Cell Brew, Dampen Harm, Cell Brew, Diffuse. Again, it's a magic attack, so we can use literally any of our defensives on it and be okay. And if you don't have anything, again, if you know that you've got a big heal or you can call for it, you can just kind of take it as long as you're topped off first, and then heal yourself up after with Expel Harm. But you can see over there, I did paralyze that mob on my right of mine, so that, again, we didn't have it going to the sand traps, because you can generally live 3 or 4 popping, but if you have all 5 pop at once, it will be really bad. So we're going to go back towards the green marker. Now, this one is going to be summoning the robotic army people. So you need a kick for the dragon. You need a kick for the one marked as star here. It's going to do a cast. And then the one marked as moon is going to do a frontal, which can be stunned. It's important to stun that. Our warrior said he's going to stun it here, and then he actually does. And then he also does bombing run. And bombing run just makes it so that he like fixates the person, and then he drops bombs underneath them. So as soon as you see bomb and run, you just want everyone to get the fuck away from him. So again, I normally just put 1 melee on kicking our dragon, 1 melee who can either use a stop of some sort on the one that's marked a star here, and then you want to stay away from moon when it's doing bombing run. And then it also does that frontal too, so you do want to try to use a stop on that. The bombing run, if you stun it, it still does the bombing underneath it. It just doesn't move, so that can be helpful. But it will still do bombing runs, so don't be anywhere close to it, especially if you're a melee. Now, if you do this correctly, you should have over 93% here. The last 3 mobs will give you about 7.5%. So, again, if you're at 70.4 before you left to go to either Morchi or the Horde Alliance fight, you should be good here. But basically, we're just going to go back through here. I always have a hard time of figuring out which way I'm going, so once the first person goes, if people are behind, I generally just throw down a marker so that people know, hey, go this way, because I have small brain and I will get lost. Literally, I've gotten lost in here so many times, it's not funny. So, don't be bad, don't die, it's easy to get lost. Put down markers so that you know where you're going. Now, this next pack, what is important to do is to know that if you've got like 1.5 minute cooldowns, they're fine to use. I would not recommend popping any 2 minute cooldowns, because you're gonna have that. You're gonna want them for the boss. And then the other thing that's important to know as a tank is that we really only want to be using Cell Brew here, or maybe 1 Dampen Harm or 1 Diffuse, but definitely not both. So you want to do your best to make sure that for the frontals that this big dragon's going to do, you only are using those so that you have all your cooldowns available for the boss, because the frontals on Tyrannical really fucking hurt. So here, I tell people to, kick and kill Diamond, and then I normally get the kick on Star, and you just want to nuke down one of the Marauders here. That's the one that does like the spiral spinning, this ability right here. But you do also want to watch out. It is important to kill the other one as well, because this big dragon here does all of the AoE damage. So the faster you can get those done, the easier time your healer is going to have healing through all of the AoE damage that's going out. Again, it is important to I always try to throw out my Chi Wave there just to put a little bit extra healing, and every once in a while I'll throw out a regular Vivify if needed. But you can see I use Cell Brew on that frontal. I am trying to make sure I don't use any of my offensive cooldowns that are long or anything like that, so that I have them all available for this boss. You want to pop all offensive abilities at the beginning here to really do as much damage as you can to the boss, but also be ready to alternate your defensives, because the frontals that it does is a lot of damage. Now, I highly recommend if you have Touch of Death up, do not be impatient with it, okay? A lot of people are going to be like, oh, there's one ad out, I can Touch of Death it and have it up again. Don't do that, okay? This fight, if you don't kill the 2 dragons that come out at the same time fast enough, you will just wipe. So it's super important as a monk, save one of your Touch of Deaths for when you have the 2 dragons come out. So don't be impatient with that. So all your offensive cooldowns except for Touch of Death at the beginning. So, as soon as everyone's ready, pull the boss. We're going to point him in one direction, and as soon as I see the portal, I'm just going to kind of stand behind the portal, making sure that I'm going to place the frontal away from my melee, but so where they can still hit the dragon that's going to spawn. Ideally, with the 2 orbs, if you have a hunter in the group, have your hunter stand in the orbs. It's really easy for them to do. If you only have 1 healer or 1 range, then, you know, that's that. So you can see I cell brewed my first one, and then I'm going to follow the ad. It's always going to be to where you don't want to follow the first ad. You always just want to wait for the frontal to come and then follow it. As soon as this ad's dead, we're going to get another frontal on us here shortly. You just notice I did not Touch of Death there. It's really important. This one I'm going to dampen harm. And then this ad that spawns, we are going to move with it. Because we just had the frontal. The frontal's not going to happen. If I had moved with the last one, I would have fronted all the melee, and that's not good. So again, pull him really close so that you basically stand in the portal to where the frontal's only going to hit you and the melee can still hit. For this one, I'm going to cell brew again. Again, notice cell brew, dampen harm, and then cell brew again. And then we're going to kill this. I'm once again not Touch of Deathing because I want to save that for the double that's coming. Here spawns the double. Just make sure to spinning crane kick, get something on both of these, or, you know, cake smash if you can. And then for this one, I'm going to fort brew. And then now it's super important. If you're only using if you're not using Chi Torpedo, you will get hit in the back for the boss, like I just did there, so don't do that. Be careful. Be careful not to run through the orbs so that you don't affect things. But generally, I put Skull on one of the ads. It auto-marked weird here. But generally, we get one, we kill it, I'll Touch of Death one of them, and then, you know, we'll quickly burst on the other one. And that generally will end up so that you don't have a bunch of ads going all over the place, getting at your healer, and so that you don't run into that running out of time and wiping to the boss thing. Now, we don't have a luster in our group. We should have been using drums. But if you, I try to ping a position for us to kind of ideally drop all our stuff so that we have lots of room. Unfortunately, our healer boxes himself in and then runs into a swirly and kills himself, which is unfortunate, but it happens. This one I'm going to cell brew. And then this, as soon as everyone's up, this is where you want to lust. Oh, we do have a lust in our group. I was thinking about a different run. So we are going to lust here now. And we're just going to burn this as much as we can. Now, ideally, if you had your healer die there, you quickly get them up, have them drop Angel form and get them up. And unfortunately, they didn't drop Angel, and then our Paladin Pug was busy running around, so a little late. Here, I'm going to, once again, that time I diffused magic. So, going back, again, the first one was Cell Brew for this phase, and then diffuse magic. The next one I will Cell Brew again. I am trying to, like, bait these into positions where I can fill up old spots or spots that are already kind of like mixed in the middle. And generally you're okay. You can kind of stay on the sand a little bit as a tank. For the next one, unfortunately I didn't have Cell Brew up here. I think it's because I was too far off the boss. I didn't get enough cake smashes in. So I did dampen harm there. But ideally you have Cell Brew back up. So it's kind of unfortunate. So our Paladin is dead now. I'm going to try to bait these over here again. Unfortunately, our priest gets clipped by another swirl, so we're down. We have no more B-reses. It's just me and our 2 DPS. Our hunter, unfortunately, somehow got in combat with something at a different time than us, so they're getting Entangling at a different time. So they're doing their orb. And our warrior moved out of the orb that spawned on him, so we can let the hunter deal with it. But unfortunately, now our hunter is entangled, even though it's not entangling for us, it's entangling for her. And she is now stunned and dead. So, super unfortunate. But I did Cell Brew the last one. So I didn't have it here. Just trying to best stay alive. Everyone's dead. Now, you might think at this point the fight's over, we wiped. But the dragons came down at 8%. The dragons do a lot of DPS here. So as long as you can survive, you can still time this. The important thing is to handle the balls just like your hunter would, and to rotate your cooldowns effectively here. Now, I'm using a cheat death trinket. I've not been lucky. I have not gotten the new version of it, so I'm using a 437 from last season. But you can see here, taking a lot of damage, and I know I have it, so instead of like blowing all my cooldowns, I'm going to let it proc, so I get the damage reduction from it, and I can still deal with this orb, and I can move every time that all these swirls are coming. And just be ready to, you know, expel harm as you're going around. So for my next one, I did just pop Diffuse, and then I also popped Cell Brew since I don't have a healer with me. Just doing my best to stay alive. And I'm just doing as much damage as I can, making sure to stand in the circle. Now, if there's only one of you, can see the circles don't spawn directly on top of each other, so make sure you're not standing in both because you don't want to die from having 2 debuffs killing you. And again, I'm just moving over. Luckily, I was able to get enough attacks off that I could Cell Brew again. And then for this frontal, I am going to dampen harm at the same time. So I have both of those going. And now the boss is getting low enough, it's almost in range for Touch of Death. All I need to do is stay alive, use my healing, stay in this orb, and as long as we can touch death, it's going to be dead. And that is the power of being a Brewmaster monk. So don't let other people tell you that Vengeance or Prop Paladin is the only good tank this season. So that's going to do it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comments below. I do respond to any that I see come up. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it and give me a subscribe. That'd be awesome. It really does help me out. And I will see you guys in the next one.